in Facebook land is able to see us just yet, so we might chit chat for a few minutes. But as technology would have it, today the Zoom platform is not connecting to the Facebook Live platform. I'm sure that the incredible, overwhelming Zoom webinars that are happening across, and so every industry is working hard to fix all of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to come to you live from Zoom, and we're still going to record it, and we're still going to have it available on our website, and it will still be posted on our Facebook. So the only difference is if you have any questions you'd like to ask, you can comment on them in the comments, and then our lovely Angelique will forward me those questions so that we can get them answered in this next little bit. So I still want to give you guys a little bit of time to log on. I'm sure people are wondering what the link is, so we're gonna give you a few minutes to do that. But while we're waiting, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much to the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber and the partnership that we have with Square Inc. and New Mexico Tech to bring you this webinar series. Between yesterday and the next 15 days or so, we're going to bring you a daily webinar that is going to be focused on small business information that you guys are looking for right now during COVID. A minute ago, I was talking with one of our panelists, and everything is so super fluid right now, and things are changing so quickly. And so we're trying to keep up with all the information that you need and kind of go through it for you and break it down for you so that we can get you the right information in little bits instead of masses amount of information coming at you. So we understand because we're going through that as well. And so we took the opportunity to put together this little webinar series. We're going to cover everything from the SBA loan process to insurance, taxes, workers' comp, insurances of all kinds, leadership during this time. How are you going to reopen and re-enter the small business community when the time comes? All kinds of different topics that are going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks. And so today's topic is going to be about the payroll protection plan. But before we get started, I want to just tell you guys there's a couple of things that we're doing in preparation for these webinars. And one of them is that we have a survey that we've put out to you guys. It is pinned to the top of our Facebook page. It's also on our website, ahcnm.org. You can use the COVID link. It's also on the front page, and it will be on this link as well. We'll have Angelique post the link on the comments in this particular Zoom interview. And so the reason for that survey, it's real simple. It's about 5 or 6 questions. And the reason that we do the survey is so that we can find out the information that you guys need. There's some basic questions in there, but some of that content we're pulling out to create these webinar series. So I just want to give a big shout out to Andrew Baca with ABA Technologies, who filled out our survey. Andrew is currently working. He's in the technology business, IT business. They actually do a lot of our IT here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. And I want to say thank you, Andrew, a very, very busy business owner right now who took the time to fill out that survey. And so we appreciate you doing that. And so we are excited, guys, to get started. I hope everybody's on. Again, if you missed the beginning of this, we apologize. We are on Zoom Live, not Facebook Live, but we still have the same capabilities, and we're here to bring you the important information. Today's topic is all about payroll protection. So before we get started, once again, want to thank our sponsors, Square Inc., our supporters in all of this technology, New Mexico Tech, and of course, the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. So we've invited a couple of panel experts with us today to talk about and help us break down what is this PPP, triple P, everybody has a special name for it. How, how you can qualify, do you even qualify, is it worth it, and where do you go, and all of those questions that have been asked, we're gonna try to get all of that out of the way, and then there is an opportunity for you guys to ask questions by posting inside the Facebook post, and again, we'll be fielding those as we go. So in order to get started, I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves. We have Jamie and Brad with us, and they had a little discussion before, so I'm not sure who's going to go first and how you guys want to do it, but please take it away. Tell us who you are, and then let's just dive right in.
Hi, thanks, Shannon. Thanks for having me. So I'm Jamie Allen. I'm an attorney with Module Sperling in Albuquerque. working on various matters, but one of those being employment law. And, you know, with this COVID-19, this, as you said, has been fluid. It's changing every single day. So we are giving you what is current as of right now, and hopefully get some small businesses a little bit of relief.
And this is Brad Stewart. I'm with Polaco CPAs. With me today is Bob Daniel. Bob and I did a radio show on KKOB Live for 10 years on Let's Talk Business New Mexico. We've been doing presentations like this on various topics, including the employee retention program, the various things under the new law for sick leave, as well as the PPP program. So glad to join you today. Polaco CPAs, I think at the bottom corner it shows Robert Daniel. Like I said, that's Bob Daniel, one of our associates here. But I'll be talking to you today on this topic.
Well, I want to thank both of you, first of all, for being with us today. We appreciate it. And I'm sure you both know how busy the last 30 days or so has been, and especially since the announcement of the PPP plan coming out. And so one of the biggest questions that we've received, not just through our survey, but through all of our outreach that we've done for the last month or so, has been, how do I qualify? What is it specifically? Is it worth it for me to do this? Where do I go to do this? So if you guys could just start kind of breaking it down for us, and then of course sharing any information that you have with that, and if you have any handouts you need to screen share, anything, let us know and we can share those as well. And you guys have the ability to do it now on your screens. So Jamie, please.
Great. So the first question is, what is the Paycheck Protection Program? And all in all, it is a loan designed to provide direct incentive for small businesses to basically keep their workers on the payroll during this pandemic. And the Small Business Association, the SBA, will forgive the loans under certain circumstances, which we'll go over. The first question being, who is eligible? And I'm going to screen share who is eligible, because there's quite a bit of a list. That is, if I can get my computer to cooperate. Here we go. So
we're also all learning how to work from home, Jamie. So
yes, we are. We certainly are. So who is eligible? The main thing here is small businesses with fewer than 500 employees. And I'm not sure if you guys can see my screen share, but also businesses in an industry with employee-based standard size. So that's also set by the SBA. Restaurants, hotels, and other businesses that fall within the North American Industry Classification Code 72. That's also set by the SBA, and that those businesses will apply so long as each location has fewer than 500 employees. Also eligible are tribal businesses, 501c19 veteran organizations, 501c3 nonprofits, that includes religious organizations, independently owned franchises with under 500 employees, sole proprietors, independent contractors, and self-employed individuals. So these are just the list of people, you know, my business falls under this, so you are eligible to apply. And the details of this loan, a lot of people will ask, okay, how much can I borrow? Any eligible small business is eligible to borrow 250% of their average monthly payroll expenses, with a cap on that of $10 million. The loan has a maturity of 2 years. So it's due in 2 years with an interest rate of 1%. And unlike other SBA loans, this is not negotiable. This is just, everyone gets the same terms. It's a 1% 2-year maturity. However, should you want to pay that back early, there are no prepayment penalties or fees, and there's no collateral required. And next thing is that all payments are deferred for 6 months, but you should know that that interest will continue to accrue over the 6 months. Now, And this amount is intended to cover 8 weeks of payroll expenses and any additional amounts for making payment toward debt obligations. But the question, I'm sure everyone wants to know, how do I get this forgiven? I want a loan, but how do I get this debt forgiven? And the loan will be fully forgiven if the funds are used to cover payroll costs, mortgage interest, utility costs over the 8-week period after the loan is made, and employee compensation levels are maintained. So if you have to reduce your workforce, your forgiveness will be reduced if the full-time headcount declines or if salaries and wages decrease. However, if these requirements are met, the loan will be forgiven at the end of the 8-week period. So the next question, next popular after how do we get this loan forgiven, is how can I use these loans proceeds specifically? So of course it's payroll costs, including benefits, interest on mortgage obligations, as long as those obligations were incurred before February 15th of 2020. Rent under lease agreements in force also before that February 15th date, and utilities for which the service began before February 15th. And the next thing is a question of, okay, payroll costs are covered. What counts as payroll costs? So the answer to that question is salaries, wages, commissions, and tips, and that's capped on an annualized basis for each employee at $100,000. It also covers employee benefits, including costs for vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave, allowance for separation or dismissal, and group healthcare benefits, including insurance premiums, as well as payment of any retirement benefit. And finally, it also covers state and local taxes assessed on compensation. And there's also one small caveat for a sole proprietor or an independent contractor. What will be included for those groups as payroll costs are wages, commissions, income, or net earnings from self-employment, and that is also capped at $100,000. And just to reiterate, the question that does come up a lot is, does the Paycheck Protection Program cover sick leave? And the answer to that is yes. It includes employee benefits, including costs for parental, family, medical, or sick leave. And I think, let's see here. Yeah, so like I said, I think the main questions that are mostly coming up with this are, how long do I have to keep my full staff on? How long do I have to comply with the terms of these loans, just, to make sure it gets forgiven? And the answer to that is the 8-week period of the loan. So I think the second most common question after how do I get this forgiven is something that Brad's going to handle. So I'm going to hand it over to him. And one major thing there is, how do I apply? How do I get through the application process? Who do I talk to? And I'm going to hand it on over to Brad for that.
Jamie, let me jump in real quick because I got a text question just now. To clarify something that you said just a minute ago, you must keep all of your staff in order to try to get the loan forgiven. If at any time you have to lay off or let go, then that starts to drop, correct?
That is
forgiveness. So if at all possible, the goal of this program is to keep your staff if you can.
Right, to keep your staff and to keep them at the wages that they were at before.
Okay. Brad, it's all you.
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks for the overview, Jamie, and thanks to the Hispano Chamber for sponsoring this. I'm going to ask Bob to share a screen, which is a presentation that we've been doing on this very topic. And Bob, I'll ask you to go to page 6. And let me clarify one thing. When we're talking about the 8-week period, the 8-week period is the the comparable 8-week period after funding of the loan compared to the prior year at the same time is how they're going to compare to see if you have loan forgiveness or not. What is currently on your screen is the application itself. I know it's small, it's available on the SBA website, but one of the important things I want to point out here, if you go to page 7, Bob, there is a number of certifications you're going to be providing to the SBA and to the lender who's processing this loan for you. One thing that is different that we haven't really seen in certifications before is that you're certifying that everything you've provided to your knowledge is accurate, and not just under civil penalties, but under criminal penalties. And so I've highlighted this here on our screen. If you are taking out this loan and you're doing it not in accordance with what it was intended for, the SBA has the ability to go after you criminally. That's not covered by insurance, just to let you know, and nobody can spend time in jail for you. So this one is something that is a very serious issue. The lenders who are processing these loans have asked the SBA various questions regarding, do they have to verify the information the applicant is providing to them? And basically the SBA has come back and said no, because we have this very certification. So be careful when you apply for these. It's very important that you are doing everything appropriately and that there's no false data in any way, shape, or form. So in keeping with that, let's go to the next page down. So these are some of the things that you're going to be asked for when the lender, when you go for this application. In general, your legal business name, address, phone number, etc., when the business was established, what the ownership type is it a sole proprietorship, S corp, etc., number of owners, the gross annual revenue, which is typically your prior year, so what happened through December 31 of 2019. In addition to that, we've seen requests for financial statements for the period ended December 31, 2019. So you want to make sure you have all that stuff together before you sit down with the lender. You have to assert or basically certify that all applicants are U.S. citizens or permanent residents. They're asking for payroll tax filings. We typically see what they're asking for here is a W-3, which is a summary of all your W-2s that were last year W-2s, 2019. And then they're also asking for all your quarterly payroll tax forms, 941s. They're also asking for all of your Form 1099 miscellaneous that you issued to any party during 2019. And when it's a sole proprietorship, they're asking for information to try and figure out what your compensation would have been as a sole proprietor. So they're asking for income and expenses from your sole proprietorship. Basically what shows on the Schedule C of your 1040. Bob, if you go to the next slide. One thing that we're recommending that everybody keep, because you're having to assert that you were affected by orders from a state or local government that has impacted your business in a negative fashion. So what you want to do is make sure and keep copies of the governor's state of emergency, and then go to the New Mexico Secretary of Health's website and save all those health orders that have been posted and continually do that. In addition to that, I would have documentation, I would do a write-up of what you have changed in your business as a result of those orders. So if you've had to close, if you've had to work remotely, if you have limitations on hours, if you have limitations because you can only serve takeout food, if you have limitations because of social distancing, some of the retail outlets I know that are open, grocery stores, they can only be at 20% of the capacity. So any of those things you want to document, and you want to keep those on hand with the documentation that you provided to your lender. Keep it for your normal retention policy. So if your retention policy is 6 years on this kind of stuff, keep it for 6 years. at a minimum, keep it for 4, because that's what's outlined in the particular act, is they want this documentation to be around for at least 4 years. So if you have a 3-year retention policy, keep it for 4. If you have a 6-year, keep it for 6. Just to make sure that you're not subject to criticism there. And then lastly, I'll tell you what our recommendations are. And so let's see, go down a little bit farther. Oh, actually, go back to this real quick. So the 8-week period that they're going to look at the payroll cost provided, be really careful with the beginning of that 8-week period. If you pay every 2 weeks, it's probably not going to impact you. But if you pay on the 15th and the end of the month, or if you pay once a month at the end of the month, you need to make sure the timing on that 8-week period allows you to get 8 weeks of payroll in, because it's based on payroll paid. And so please look at that. And based on questions and answers from the SBA, the lender has about 10 days to make that disbursement under the loan, and that starts that 8-week period. So next slide is our recommendations. You know, if you meet the criteria, you're less than 500 employees, you're located in New Mexico, I think you ought to get with your financial institution, complete the application, and then decide if you want to go forward. If you do want to go forward, we're highly recommending you put the money in a separate cash account. The reason we say that is if you have an operating account that allows for sweeps to pay down your line of credit, and you put that money from these loan proceeds into that account and it sweeps and pays down the line of credit, you've potentially just violated your agreement with the SBA, because you said you'd pay payroll, rent, utilities out of it, not pay down your line of credit. So by putting it in a separate cash account, it won't cause those things to happen. You then pay expenses just like you normally do, and you take money out of that separate cash account and move it to your operating account as you pay those expenses you have to pay. I think there's a big caution here. One is, if you decide to pay out more than what you're going to get forgiven, realize this means you're transferring wealth that you're never going to get back. I mean, it's going to employees. It's not something like you took out a loan on a building or on receivables, where when you collect the receivables, you can pay off the line, or your loan, or the building, you can always sell and pay off the loan. This is going to be money that you're going to pay out that you're going to have to recover out of operations in the future. So just keep that in mind. And then there's no prepayment penalty, so you can always pay off the loan. And I don't know we have a slide after that. I think that's the last one. So we'll stand ready for questions. We may put this slide back up for some of the questions depending on what they are. Thank you.
Okay, so I personally, have looked at this many times, especially dealing with members and trying to answer some of their basic questions, but I really appreciated the slide where you talked about the 3 things: the governor's order, and then the survey, the health survey, and then the limitations, because those are not things that I think a lot of business owners know that they need to be prepared for. And so that's super important. What is the typical kind of timeline in order to get this approved, or even know if you are approved? And then what is the typical time for the funding to come through?
If you want, I can take that one, Jamie. We've had several clients that have gone through this process. I will tell you, it depends on the lender. Some of the smaller community banks have been extremely responsive. And it's not only that, I shouldn't say it all falls on the lender. Some of this falls on the SBA. The way these work is basically the lender collects the information, submits it to the SBA. The SBA gives them a loan number, and the SBA is the one tracking the funding on this, and then it authorizes the lender to go on ahead and disperse money under the loan number. So the SBA was a little bit behind.
Yeah, this thing's not working out right. It's supposed to be, here, have a bite.
Oops, and I think they're catching back up. I'm not sure where that came from. Anyway, so the SBA has been a little bit behind. A lot of the larger banks, Wells Fargo, US Bank, et cetera.
You can have that.
Sorry,
yeah, the whole thing.
Okay, back. So a lot of the larger banks have been a little slower on this process, and I think it's because they're trying to put processes and procedures in that follow all their institutions, where a smaller community bank can just respond a little bit quicker because they can put it in place for their location. Whether they have 1 or 5 locations is a lot different than trying to do 500 locations. So. And funding, it happens once they get the loan number, they have up to 10 days to fund it. So funding happens pretty quickly once they have the loan number. And we've seen some of those loans go through already.
Wow. Okay. Another question. So I don't know if the question is where can they go or where can they not go, because I'm not sure. Some loans you can go through credit unions, some you can't. So who typically can they reach out to in this time? I'm assuming their CPA would be number one, but then what banks or lending facilities are or are not doing the PPP loans?
Well, the legislation said any FDIC insured entity or other financial institution as appropriate. So basically they were encompassing in there SBA lenders that don't have any depository relationship like a bank would normally have. They're just straight SBA lenders, and credit unions. I would highly recommend you work with whoever you already have a banking relationship with and see if they're participating in the program. The law does not require everybody to participate in the program. So you have to check with who you currently have your depository relationship or your lending relationship with, and they could be both the same, and see if they're participating in the program. That's the fastest and best way to do this. And if they're not participating in the program, then you can go to the SBA website to find others that may be participating within your zip code.
So this might be just a question for Polacos or just in general on the side of accounting and people getting with their CPAs. Are you working with your current clients to help them through the process, or are you recommending that they go to do the loan directly with the lending facility? What is the best way for somebody to do that in your opinion? I know your clientele is probably a little different.
No, our clientele, we do, I don't know, I'm looking at Bob. We do work for 1,500 businesses around the state, varying in sizes from, small companies all the way up to companies that do $500 million plus a year in sales and operate all over the world. So it does vary. I think our recommendation is always to go to the bank, talk to them, see if they participate in it, ask them what they're going to want. And then if you don't have the data or you have questions, reach out to us and we can certainly help. And so that's what we're doing. So I would get with your CPA or accountant and get the data together that's requested by the bank.
Okay. And one other question, Brad, are you guys taking on new clients? Has this been a time that you're getting additional reach out, or are you working with your current clients? I ask because we've had a couple of people go, oh boy, I didn't know I needed a CPA this quickly, that kind of stuff. So what do you think about with the small businesses as such?
Oh, it's always time to bring on new clients. That's one of our favorite things to do. So we're always working with new clients and helping them grow. The reality is, even if you're doing almost $500 million a year in sales, from the United States perspective, you're still a small business. So just realize that small business doesn't necessarily mean a single employee, right? It's or even
True.
5 employees. Small business is a pretty big category.
True. So Jamie, on the legal side, what do you need to leave us with? What is the information that the small businesses need to know to make sure that they are following the rules and staying within the guidelines?
There
Jim,
we
can you undo your video? Jim,
working now.
Undo your audio. Yeah.
Okay. I think just back to Brad's earlier point is going to be your biggest thing. Just make sure that when you're filling out that application that you are doing it with making sure every single thing you put on that application is accurate and you have the documentation to show that, because the last thing you want to do is be trying to help your business and your employees and end up in trouble with, you know, criminal or just any trouble for not accurately reporting anything on that paperwork, as well as from the side of get your loan forgiven and follow the rules. Make sure you are keeping your employees on board and trying as much as you can to keep them at the same wages they were getting before. That way you can actually get that loan forgiven.
Hey guys, so I think that's a lot of information. I really appreciate the slides and the screen shares. I think that little bit of information really, really helps. Brad, if there's any of that you can share with us here at the Chamber, we would appreciate it. I was trying to take some of that information, but you guys have done it in such a nice little package where people say, how do I qualify or what do I do? And that information is really helpful for the small business community. I just want to add to Jamie, I heard a little rumor that it's like be nice to your attorney day of something of some sort. And so we just want to say a huge shout out to Modrel Sperling. Thank you to Michelle Hernandez, and who is a previous board chair here at the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber, and all the work that Modrel does for us and with us. We appreciate you guys. So that is our appreciation for the day for you, Jamie. So we appreciate that.
We love working with you guys.
We appreciate it. And we're going to see you on later in the week and maybe throughout the next few weeks on some of the other topics as well. And Brad, we really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know that you've done more intense webinar series on this particular topic and have quite a big presentation. But I would say, you know, we really appreciate having those slides in front of us, and your information and your knowledge, I think, is going to be very helpful. And I will definitely be sharing Polacos with everybody, because it is really helps when we have a CPA and a law firm that really understand, have taken the time to learn what the law and the process is, because that's all we can do right now for our small businesses in the community, is really give them the support that they need. So I just want to let you guys know we really, really appreciate you here at the Chamber. And if there's anything you'd like to close up with.
Sure, you're welcome to share that PDF of the PowerPoint charts with anybody you'd like. That's not a problem. And if anybody wants to go to our website and sign up for the various Zoom seminars we've been doing, I think we've done 6 of them so far over the last week and a half, and we're repeating them at different times just to make sure everybody has access and to update people when there's been changes. So anytime, okay?
Thank you, Brad. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we will share your website link on this when we actually put this out onto the Facebook, and make sure that that's there for you as well. And then to Jamie, thank you guys again so much. We appreciate you being patient. Today was a true testament of technology and what happens. We learned all about Zoom yesterday, and we for sure thought we had it down, but you know, thank you Facebook and Zoom for trying to work out their connection issue, but we do appreciate you guys. So we'd like to say thank you from the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber, our sponsor with Square Inc., and our partners at New Mexico Tech, Liam and team. We really appreciate you guys, and we will see you all tomorrow for the SBA loans, and we're going to break those down with a whole new group of panelists. So we thank you guys so much. Everybody have a great day from the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber. Bye-bye.
See ya.